Thank you for helping us with our Financial Literacy Week. I'm Mrs. Brock. I'm the Signature Program Facilitator. We also have Ms. Barnstead, our Signature Lead Teacher, with us today, and we are so excited to welcome some of our Business Advisory Board members and our Financial Literacy members. Monday's advisory, you all learned some very important financial literacy lessons, and you had some wonderful questions. So what we wanted to do today is present those questions that you had to our panelists, and let them answer them for you, so that when you finish this week, you are just going to have a wealth of knowledge in relation to how you can become financially literate. What's the smartest financial thing that I can do as a teenager?
I got that one. I have a few things to suggest. Avoid debt. When you charge purchases or borrow money for school, you're renting your stuff, you're renting your life. I also say save more, give up impulse buying, and invest instead. Make a plan and budget. Have every dollar get a name and a job. This one's Fred, this one's gas, this one's future. But naming every dollar is not the same thing as knowing the real-time location of those dollars. So track it. Track every dollar in an app, in Excel, or in your notebooks.
Where do I go to start saving money?
I'll take that one. I say you go right to your mom and dad. No. Basically, you know that money that grandma always sends you, you know the money that mom and dad gave you for your allowance, that's where you start. You started yesterday saving your money. Instead of taking your money and throwing it away or buying something you really don't need, or wasting it. You want to take it and start saving. So I started when I was at my first job. I was 12 years old. I used to run to the store for our neighbor, and she would give me $1. And my grandmother taught me to put 50 cents of that dollar in the savings. So believe it or not, when I got ready to go the way to college, I had enough money to actually carry me through my 4 years for just the extra stuff, the books and all that kind of stuff. So every little bit of money you get, grandma always sends you a little check with that little ugly sweater, save that money and just take even half of it. Put it away in a savings. Tell mom and dad to go to the bank with you. Start a savings account, right? You don't have to put it under your mattress. Start a savings account and then just let that money grow for you, but always put money in and don't take money out of it.
So what do you think the best way to save for college? And this thing about college loans, is that a good idea?
So my thing, the best way to save for college, what I did with my son is I went to our credit union. And what we did was he has a savings account. He has 2 savings accounts, and one is just for education. And we started that when he was in middle school. So we started that in middle school, and that's how we saved for college. And so he continues to put money into that because, of course, he's still in college. But that was the best way for us to save for college. And what happens was the credit union explained the educational savings account to him. It explained exactly how not to take money out, how much would the interest would be. And I'm going to pass it over to Terry because Terry can get a little bit deeper with the aspect of that educational fund at the credit union.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. So to Kim's point, yes, saving for college using the credit union is a great idea. But we also have what we call the 529 plan. And this can be established through your credit union, through your state, or through an investment company. But the 529 plan is a tax deferred investment plan that's created to help students achieve their college goals and dreams. And the way the plan works is it's tax deferred, and when you withdraw for education related purposes, there are no fees or taxes on those withdrawals. So you save up front, similar to like a mutual fund or ETF, And then once the student is college age, you begin to draw against those savings, that investment, to allow that student to go to college. But the question was, are college loans a good idea? So that's not an easy question. Sometimes college loans are the only means you may have of achieving your college goals and dreams. However, what I always advise my students that I speak to is really look at the scholarship market hard as you can, because there's always funds, there's always companies who are looking to give student funds for really just for college. My company gives out funds for college, so definitely look at those options before looking at the college loan option. Also, look at your local community colleges and sort of grow into the university, because it's cheaper at that level. You may not need a loan to go to your community college. And then as you get to the level where you do need to move over to the university, at that time you can establish a loan, but your total loan debt will be a lot less than establishing your loan on year one.
You can also consider state university. You don't need to go to private schools. And I recommend, again, make a plan. Think about what your life would be like after you leave whatever you do after high school, and work backwards. Be specific. What do you see yourself doing? Do you live in New York City? Do you live in Baltimore? Are you wearing Gucci, or is Target okay? And then look at the kind of job that you want to take. How much does that pay? If you're looking to have an $150,000 lifestyle and you want to have a job that pays $30,000, maybe you have to change the idea of what kind of lifestyle you want, or you have to change the job that you want, the career path that you're thinking about taking. And don't forget, if you do get student loans, if you're normal, typical, $300 is going to come out every month. What happened to your choice of lifestyle?
Yeah. Okay, wonderful advice. I think I got a good hold on, how college and how to save for that. But some of the other terms that were thrown out this week, mortgage and rent. And I know that I'm not particularly thinking about that right now because I'm only in high school, but we know that it goes very fast. And so what is your opinion? Like, should I pay a mortgage? What is it? Should I pay rent? What do you think?
When you look into getting into a mortgage is basically a debt instrument that affords you the opportunity to basically invest in real estate, right? So when you look into getting into a mortgage, it's more of a long-term investment, and we call it a good debt, right? But you want to look at basically, is it something? Are you going to stay in the area when you look at buying a home, and things of that nature? What is your plan as far as in life? How long are you going to stay? Are you looking to move away? Because when you get into rent, rent is just an expense. When you're renting, you're just paying. You pay, you stay. You pay, you stay. It's that ordeal. It's literally, you sign a 1 year lease, 2 year lease, or something like that, and it goes short term. But ultimately, there is no tax benefit to renting and things like that. But if you know that you're only going to be here, let's just say a year or wherever you're going to be, and you're not going to stay a long time, it is better to rent because, jumping into a mortgage, you may not be able to get out and sell that house based on the mortgage. So the thing is, when we say which is better, it's based on just the plan to say, hey, where do you see yourself, in the next 2 to 5 years, right? And if you think you're going to move, let's say, okay, let me rent short term and then see if I really want to stay here and then purchase here, right? Or make the investment here in a mortgage. I know I bought my first house my senior year in college, right? So those are the things that you want to, take into consideration because I knew I wasn't leaving Maryland. That was just me. So that's the thing that you want to look at when you start getting into mortgages and things like that, making that investment. So, it's based on your future and what you want to do. Because a lot of times people say, well, renting is bad. And it's not that it's bad. It's just, you don't want, if you're going to stay, it would be better to get a mortgage and get that investment. If that's, something that you're looking to do, start that real estate portfolio there. All right.
And just another thing to consider when you're thinking about rent versus mortgage is that in order to purchase a home, typically you have to put down a down payment. And the down payment could be depending on the types of mortgage you get, anywhere from 5, 10, 20%. It also depending on your income level. So you have a substantial amount of money that you've got to put down. So you need to have that money in hand to do that. And so most people, when they're younger, they haven't accumulated that kind of wealth. I mean, on a $150,000 home at 20%, you need a $30,000 down payment. So most people haven't accumulated that kind of money. So that's why early on, most students out of college, in the early and professional careers, they're renting and they're building that wealth in order to be able to make that down payment. And then they eventually move into a home when they can afford it. So that's just another thing you have to consider when you're thinking about rent versus buy. It's typically the evolution of it.
The other thing to consider is how much of your budget your housing will cost. And a good rule of thumb is 25% of your take home.
Speaking of homes and mortgage and rent, some of these other terms we heard, and I know my parents are worried about this, interest rates. So what are interest rates? How do they work? And should I be concerned about interest rates?
That's awesome. That's a great question. I'll jump in on that one too. And so when we talk about interest rates, there's one thing that I want everyone to remember, guys, and that's called the rule of 72, right? It's also known as the banker's rule. All right. And the rule of 72 tells you how long your money's going to take to double based on the interest rate that you're getting, right? So, and you divide that interest rate into 72, and it'll tell you the approximate number of years take your money to double. So when you look at interest rates can work for you. All right. But they also work for the bank, right? So that's why it's called the banker's rule. So when we look at how interest rates work, when you talk about yourself, when we were looking at saving money, if you look at a 3% interest rate that you're earning on your money, right, and on a savings account, right, that money's going to double every 24 years, right? At a 6%, right, 6 goes into 72 12 times, so it's going to double every 12 years, and at a 12% interest rate, it's going to double every 6 years, right? So when you look at money, that's great if it's working for you. But on the opposite side of that, if you're in debt, right, the interest rates, they're now working against you and they're compounding against you. So again, let's look at a 3%, for maybe a mortgage or something like that, 6% for a car loan, right? And then 12% for a credit card. Now you're paying this money, right, to the bank. It's now in favor of the bank. So when we talk about who controls them, overall, the Federal Reserve controls the rate, like how they pay each other, how banks pay each other and all that type of stuff. But ultimately, you control your interest rate, right? You control it by your lifestyle, your credit score, right? The better your credit score, the lower your interest rate, right? When you look at borrowing money. And then when we talk about who controls the interest rate, where you decide to invest your money, what your portfolio is made up of, right? When you look at those things, you're controlling that interest rate, right? If you're a conservative investor and you're looking at the 3 to 6% range, right? You're controlling that because it's based on your risk, right? Or your suitability. But if you're an aggressive, when you can look at the 10 to 12% range, right? More aggressive, more time, you're controlling that. So ultimately, there's two parts to who's controlling that. But the big thing that I want you all to remember is the rule of 72, also known as the banker's rule. Remember that, ingrain that in your head, because that's literally how interest works. And you want it to work for you, not against you.
Wow, James, I didn't even know that. Thank you. This is for me. I needed that.
No problem.
That's wonderful. So I know we've mentioned a couple of things about savings, but does anybody want to throw anything out? What a specific good savings technique?
I would say, as far as what a good savings technique is, literally starting out. If you're starting right now and you don't have any expenses, I would say save 50% of your money that you have coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing is because if you start now, right, if you start saving a high percent of what you have coming in, it'll become a habit. Okay. And then of course, maybe when your lifestyle starts, you start building a family, you may have to peel it back to like 40 or 30%, but ultimately, I know a lot of people say, even if you get down to 10%, a lot of my clients, because they have the lifestyle already, I put them on a 10-10-80 rule, which is basically 10% for giving, 10% for saving and investing, and 80% for the lifestyle. But ultimately, if you start now, at a young age and just say, hey, I'm going to start investing 50% or saving 50% of my money right off the bat, it'll become a habit. So therefore, you're not going to jump out there and use all your money for your lifestyle and not be able to save because you already started a habit. Remember, it's about starting early. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. Right? Money is a tool. It's to make you more money, right? Not to be a consumer, but remember, money makes you more money. So if you have that in mind, right, You know, you'll be well on your way starting now.
And I think the best mechanism for saving is the auto deduction from your paycheck.
Oh, yes.
If your employer has this feature is to automatically deduct your savings from your paycheck before you even get it. So you just get the net amount and you don't even think about it. You just get whatever's in the bank account. Now you know is what you can spend and you've already saved. And it's a great feature that makes saving very easy.
With a company, but it is good to begin your investments early because the compounding effect of investments is paramount over time. And then there's cryptocurrency, which is sort of a new investment. It would be the new money, if you will, for the future. I invest in that as well, Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is very new. I don't advise students to really put much money into it right now. You have to learn about these things. But if you do have some extra savings that you want to try, again, you can invest in those at very little amounts as well.
Can I follow up about the 401k plans and matching?
Sure.
I think one of the things that people should really take advantage of is the matching program. It's extraordinary how much that can accelerate your savings. You know, if you just think about if a company matches, if you put 2% of your salary into your savings and they match 2%, then literally on day one you've doubled your investment. And that's got a huge compounding effect over time. So
Mr. Angelo, what do you mean? You mean a company will just put free money in my account? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, there's companies will provide matching programs because it's just part of their incentive package and benefits when they're trying to hire people, and it's a way for them to attract folks to come and work at their company. So it's just part of your total compensation. Your compensation in general is just not your hourly salary, your hourly wage, or your salary. It's all the other benefits that you get from a company. Meaning, like you can get health benefits, you can get matching benefits. So it's important that you take advantage of that, because that's really a great way to accelerate your savings and building your wealth by taking advantage of what a company will match. So you should always do that and do your best to try to maximize that.
Investing money, like where do we go? Like I hear all these different terms that you're bringing up: the bank, credit union, IRAs, stock market, cryptocurrency. Where do you think is the best place that a teenager now can put their money away to save?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joanne. Again, this is Terry Grant, and I'll take a shot at answering that question. So I do invest, and I've been investing for many years now. And if I was to talk to my teenage self, given the technology that we have today, I would advise teenagers to look at saving money through investments as well. They have certain apps like Stash that allow you to invest as little as $5 into major companies like Nike or Apple. And those are great ways to save money and really learn about investments, because Stash will also teach you about investments as you make your investments. Now, like Kim said, it's always good to put your money in the bank in a savings account. Once you begin working, though, it is very important to use your job 401k plan or whatever retirement plan that they offer. That retirement plan is generally matched through your investment. So if you invest 150%, the company would match your investment as well, up to a certain number. So definitely look at your 401k plans once you're working with a company. But it is good to begin your investments early because the compounding effect of investments is paramount over time. And then there's cryptocurrency, which is sort of a new investment. It would be the new money, if you will, for the future. I invest in that as well, Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is very new. I don't advise students to really put much money into it right now. You have to learn about these things. But if you do have some extra savings that you want to try, again, you can invest in those at very little amounts as well.
Speaking of that, how do I become an investor at a young age? Like, how do I learn about the stock market or know what to invest in?
I can take that one. I think first of all, you need to kind of define what it is that you're trying to accomplish. When I think of the term investor, I think of long term as opposed to a saver, maybe something shorter term. So I think you need to set goals for one. To figure out what it is that you're investing for. Is it for a college education? Is it for a home? Is it for a car? And then look for utilize your resources. The internet's a tremendous resource that you can utilize. There are plenty of books that have been written over the years. I think A Random Walk Down Wall Street was mentioned, that you can look to for advice as to how you approach investing. What type of investments are right for the goals that you've set, and educate yourself first and foremost. Don't just jump into it because someone else said it was a good idea. Understand what the risks are, understand what the rewards are.
And I'd like to piggyback off of what you just said, and that was great information. So when I first started to invest, I went to lunch with the CEO that I was working with at the time, and he said to me, I thought was great advice. He said, first thing you want to look at are companies that you patronize. Look at companies where you are buying most of your items, and companies that make you feel good about those purchases. And also, you want to be social you want to invest in companies that sort of match your social responsibility. And what he meant by that is, so the first part, I love Apple products. I'm just going to use Apple as an example. I love their products. The lines are always long. I like the feeling that I get when I'm in the store. So then it showed me, okay, this is what he meant. But every company that you invest in isn't a store, but they create products. So when you find a product that you really love, kind of look into who's making that product, and then look into the company and make sure that this is a great company. And then you want to look at that company again to see if this company is doing anything that doesn't match your social sensibility. And what I mean by that, if you find out that this company hurt animals to make their product, and you feel like, well, I definitely love animals, so I don't want to invest in this company. So you want to really do your due diligence and look at those items before you make your investment. But that is piggybacking off what you just said. I just wanted to add that on.
I'd like to say that a beginner's option is the mutual fund.
That's how I started, because it had people smarter than me picking what stocks were in the mutual fund, and I didn't have to think about it. And I had the automatic deductions from my paycheck going in all the time, and that's how you grow it. You take advantage of all the company perks, everything you guys just said. But yeah, mutual funds are a great way to go. And there's some other apps that you can do, and other, I don't remember which company it is, but you can buy parts of different stocks.
Yep.
So that's a fun way to do that too. But yeah,
I think it's important to note, if you are under the age of 18, you can't open an account on your own. You do have to have an adult. You have to have a custodian. Typically, those accounts are called UTMAs in the state of Maryland. It's your money, but you have an adult that co-signs on that account. If you have earned income, setting up an IRA is a great idea. You can do minor IRAs, which is tremendous for having future savings. But mutual funds, great. They provide diversification, so you're not having to pick an individual stock. ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, work very similarly, sometimes less expensive. So all fantastic options.
Yeah, and just one more item to add to how to learn is learning by doing as well. And so if you do open up an account, you start small. You put a couple $100 in there. You kind of test things out by as Terry said, buy things that you like. Buy Apple if you have an Apple iPhone. If you go to McDonald's a lot, buy McDonald's. And so you start to see how the actual, investing works, because you go online, you have to, pick your trade. You've got to, pay for it. There's a period of time when, before it sells and closes, you get the understanding of how the actual process of investing works. If you have your own account and you start small so that you don't risk a lot of money.
To follow on that as well, if you're concerned about doing it for real, if you're concerned about losing the hard-earned dollars, you can simulate it. I think most of us have smartphones. On my iPhone, I have a little stock chart. I can go in if there's a company that I'm interested in. I think actually when you open it up, Apple's already in there. If you bought, a share of Apple or a couple shares of Apple today, how would it do 6 months from now? Would you have made money? Would you have lost money? And it's a good way to understand your emotions as an investor. We all get emotional about our money, and to learn what it is that you want to buy. I like to, if you see a company ride by, obviously we all have Amazon trucks driving everywhere. Can I buy Amazon? You can. A restaurant, whatever it may be, Five Below. Are these companies that I can buy stocks in? Are they of interest to me? Those are all great places to start.
Good point, Ryan.
Thank you so much for that information. I was just thinking that I just started my first summer job, and I want to know, even though I'm not 18 yet, do I have to pay taxes or file taxes? And how about college? I just want to go to school. I don't want to have to worry about any of that stuff.
I can jump on that. In most cases, if you have a job with you're getting a paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, you get you've filled out a W-4 when you've taken that job. You're typically going to have taxes withheld from your pay. You're going to have federal taxes, state and local taxes. You're going to have Social Security and Medicare taxes, all withheld, and that's all itemized on your paycheck. The good rule of thumb is, if you do have earned income, if that income is above, and this year, 2022, if it's above $12,950, you absolutely should file a tax return. I would say that even if it's below that, you may want to file a tax return, because all of the money that you've paid in taxes, you may end up getting back. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of resources that are out there, Tax Act, TurboTax, that actually allow you to file taxes for free. So, certainly don't assume that you don't owe taxes. Don't assume that you do owe taxes. Utilize your resources. And worst case scenario, if you go onto one of these free sites and enter the information from your W-2, when you get that, at the beginning of next year, that information, will be there for you.
I just want to say something about that. It's important to pay your taxes, because there will be things down the road, such as a mortgage, that they will want your past taxes. And so if you're not paying it, you're not establishing that you've been making money. So it actually helps you leverage your money later by showing what you've been doing over a certain amount of time. So you want to get into it and be a legitimate taxpayer or business owner.
Yeah, you probably won't put this on the recording, but the Internal Revenue Service is not someone that you want knocking on your door.
Exactly.
I think we should leave it in.
Yes.
Or just going into your account, because they don't have to knock.
Oh,
They don't have to knock. They
That's
just take.
That's true.
We never have cash, so we don't ever really carry cash, and we do everything now through electronic apps and transfers and so forth. So are using applications like Venmo and a good idea?
I think Venmo and PayPal, Zelle is one that they're fantastic. They're convenient. I think back to the days before they existed and having to write checks or send in money in an envelope. Especially those of us that are parents, you're doing gifts for your children's coaches or for your teachers. This Venmo and PayPal has essentially eliminated that. As with any online banking, you just have to be vigilant. We're at a point in time where a lot of those systems are used. There are a lot of bad people on the other side trying to get to your information. So be mindful of that. If you're going to put your bank account, attach your bank account to a Venmo or to a PayPal, just understand if those systems get hacked, then your money is at risk. So certainly be mindful of who you're providing that information to, and monitor the activity in and out of that account.
Yeah, and just one other comment on auto deduction, automated payments and electronic payments. One of the other areas that is kind of tangential to this is the your credit cards and having it attached to things like Uber Eats or Netflix and items like those things they're all set up now to make it very easy to pay, and you don't even realize that you're paying them. And the fact that you actually don't physically take money out of your pocket and hand it to somebody to pay for things, you kind of lose track, and they make it very easy. And it's almost, you have this feeling like you're not actually paying for anything until the end of the month comes and your bank account has been dwindled or your credit card bill is through the roof. And it's a bigger and bigger problem these days because of automated payments and things like Uber and Netflix and HBO Max and whatever. You got all these automated things. So you really have to be careful and be vigilant about looking at your credit card statements, look at your bank statements every month and see what you're spending on, because these things add up quick and they can take from your savings without even seeing it.
Thank you all so much for coming with us today and for answering our questions. You've been wonderful. And thank you for dedicating the time to our students. And students out there, if you have more questions, we want to answer them for you. So don't be silent. We want you to talk to your parents. We want you to continue this conversation with your friends. We want you to continue the conversation with your aunts and uncles. Don't be shy about it. The more we learn about being financially literate, the more that we can make this happen. So thank you all once again for joining us. And without further ado, we're all going to say goodbye, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.